So you so it's if you block people. But I really.
People
should be-
get
I-
stuff they don't usually.
When I have my preference though. I like-
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, that sounds good to me.
Yeah. And I'm not one of these people that shuns the front row. I never, and you know, there's this psychological thing with some people. They think if they sit. Oh, like it's
Like it's glass.
And-
Right. No, we, you know, we fit on.
Do it like
And it's too big and so I had to drag Joel up there, but he's got you to do it.
Yeah, she also. Well, I like him.
Yeah, look. Bring it in here.
In fact, when Don's in town, like Yom Kippur, he has both reasons for being on the front row, because he does have a hearing problem,
Mm-hmm.
and he also is short.
Yeah.
But I don't know what
Well,
happened to him.
Well, I also like theater works,
Yeah,
not a bad seat in the house there.
yeah. I usually can do well, I can play house on the slope, because I can be a people front row.
Frank, Frank,
Close to the top.
Yeah.
yeah.
Frank
Frank has,
Oh, Frank, oh.
Frank, you
yeah,
need
well,
to turn your,
Nobody wants to sit up.
you need to turn off the mute and turn your video on, so we can see
Frank,
you.
can you hear us? Hello,
You can't hear him if he's got
we
his.
can't hear you. Hello,
Has to,
Remember back to when we were first starting Zoom.
that's why I'm not buying a new car. I don't like any car smarter than I am.
I know.
I just got one,
You did.
and it is smarter.
It's our preferred form.
It is smart.
It's smarter than me.
And.
Yeah.
Wow, is that a good thing?
It scares me a little bit, because sometimes it'll start intervening, and I don't know what it's doing.
Yeah.
Or as a garage.
I always thought if they just would build a car,
Michelle and-
Yeah.
radio, heater, air conditioning, they'd sell out in a week.
and Canada.
That's all I want. I don't wanna know all this. I wanna go from here to there. That's it.
That's what my.
I think the government won't let that happen,
Yeah, so I,
although the backup camera is.
Oh, that is.
backup camera is very,
I do like, I like that.
and the thing that beeps if
Have a hard
you
time getting out.
are getting close to something. I like that thing. I don't have that. My car is a 2007.
Yeah. Right.
Boy, beat me, mine's
And it looks
2000.
like a 2007.
It looks like a really
Having to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, probably nobody will steal
Mhm.
that's exactly my thought.
it. There you go.
And really, somebody ought to clean it, and somebody really ought to clean my house. I don't know. Why didn't somebody do that?
I don't do windows.
It sounds a little bit like little doctors. Is there somebody ought to see?
Yeah,
On to you.
I live by myself, so really, I'm teasing.
I looked at two somebodies and one of them was me.
Yeah.
Hi, Debbie, can you hear us? You can.
She's on mute.
Oh, you're on mute. Okay.
No,
Oh,
she
yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Good, very good, very
Frank,
good.
he may not be ready.
Yeah, Frank, can you hear us yet? I don't think Frank can hear us. I'm mute.
He just maybe stepped away or something.
He can hear.
Oh, we can hear.
Yeah, the mute, it just means we can't hear him. If, I mean, if it's back.
No, I didn't.
I have
a.
Because of this, she moved it, it's like 2:45.
Third channel.
They used to do with dead mutes.
No.
That's horrible.
Yeah, it is. It was horrible then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be done.
Well, we'll give them 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Says, again, we don't even know if you really exist.
And I would learn
So,
to have.
The model to go with this one is probably just as good.
Yeah, and of course, we'll be.
Anybody like puppies?
I don't know.
I would say.
Hush puppies, huh?
No,
Hush
puppies.
puppies.
That's the story.
These are day-old puppies.
So, they can move.
Yeah, my, daughter, son, and grandchildren,
Well,
2
nowadays
weeks
they got
ago,
movie
bought
outside.
a,
Yeah.
Comics
2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, got a Bernese Mountain Dog
Oh
puppy.
my goodness,
It's already gained 12 pounds.
wow.
One movie I
Well,
think
because I'm the pretty
Sound like a big
it's
dog.
just fall, it's real busy
Yeah.
with the
Kinda,
showing, now,
sorta.
not showing anymore.
St.
I
Bernardish,
didn't wanna go see
the mother was 100 pounds, the
killings
dad was
of
100.
the, cloud
I don't know what
out.
They are dragging the kids around, he is dragging the kids around the house,
Wow.
so that's good.
Have a keg around his neck.
I may work on that.
Time will pass.
Okay.
But other than that.
Well,
nothing's-
these are.
Don, can you hear me?
maybe 4 since.
Don? Hello?
Maybe about twice a year.
Don, can you hear me?
Yes.
I sent you a Hanukkah card. It came back. But Russell's telling me you're having some trouble getting your mail. But I sent you this Hanukkah card. It came back to me. I'm not sure what's going on up there with the mail.
Here's Frank.
Can you hear me,
Who?
Mhm.
Don?
Don. Don, can you hear us?
Don Canny
Hear
or
us, Don.
Can you hear?
You can hear now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Frank, we had Frank there for a second, and now he's gone again.
Okay. Well, we'll give it.
This is fine.
He may be waiting until we.
Then, how are you doing?
Doing pretty well.
Good.
Ready for summer.
Okay, yes.
Me too.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
You can always splash your face with water too, I guess.
Well, I put in my order for warmer weather. And I was told it was on back order that,
Yeah.
they would have it available about March or April.
March or April, yeah.
You have to wait for the groundhog.
I'm trying.
About sunset, not
Got
till
my
7:30.
sister. I did get my sister involved.
Could be a lot worse.
Did you? Every year.
It's
I
on
go
back
on,
order
I
too.
do. It looked like such a good idea.
No blessing.
Oh,
Bless you,
Okay, I go.
What do we do, check it out or just nothing?
Well,
Study.
technically it's Torah study, so
It is.
technically.
Well,
yeah.
yeah, the one you say for
We
Doris.
said that prayer before we meet, before sisterhood meets.
Right, I do the prayer before we,
Yeah,
we
I
study
think you
Hebrew.
could say the one we say for Thursday.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. We all know it.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll give a couple more minutes here. For the throngs to.
We,
do it.
yeah, we always do the blessing before, for Torah study before we study Hebrew too.
Oh, I like that.
Joe, the picture they have of you advertising this in all the armor and all, you look very good in all that. Great.
That's my Halloween costume, so thank you. Thank you, Don. Did you hear what I was saying about, that I sent you a Hanukkah card? And it came back?
Oh, no,
That's it, right? It came, it says, return to sender.
oh,
But anyway, happy Hanukkah.
oh, thank you.
And thank you for yours.
I'm getting pieces of mail now that are postmarked the 4th of December, 6th of December.
Of this year?
Yep. Yep, I'm lucky that this year, right?
We got a Hanukkah card last year in March. It had been mailed in November.
Yeah.
No, sweetie, I said it's okay.
Yeah, our mail usually comes about 9 at night now.
Yes, mine too.
Yeah,
By the time I get home from work and I'll open the mailbox and it's empty,
that's right.
but then I hear the mail start down there. I'm, wait a minute, like 7 o'clock. Work from a different time? Okay.
Not sure that they're just happening.
I think everybody's ashore that's going ashore.
But he asked us to purchase.
All aboard.
All right.
Trains leaving the station.
Right, well, welcome to David and welcome to David. And we'll start with Terry going to lead us in the blessing before our study, please.
I tried doing this the other day and I wound up blessing the Mooksy. Well, that's right. Okay. But we're gonna tell it that I have a name, I call a share, good shiny, but it's.
Anila Asot Director.
Yeah. The first thing is, next week we won't meet. It's Dr. King weekend, so the temple, the Sunday school won't meet, and we don't meet, but the Sunday school doesn't meet, so don't want to confuse me. I do want to thank Terry, whose idea this was actually, and the idea for the book it was. Terry's pretty much expert not only on David, but also on the author David Wolpe, Rabbi Wolpe, who she's met. He's a Rabbi Emeritus of Temple Sinai in Los Angeles. And until recently was a visiting scholar of the Harvard Divinity School's Anti-Semitic Advisory Committee, for which he uninvited himself.
He's spoken here in Memphis before.
He has, yes, he has, yes. He's a national treasure,
Yeah.
and we're glad to have that book. An author, lecturer. Let's see, we're going to have this course at 1 o'clock on Sundays, unless the Sunday school doesn't meet, and it'll be January, February, March. If you have any suggestions on how we can improve the course in any way, just let us know, even during the course. If I'm speaking too loud, not loud enough, too fast, too slow, I'm interrupting, not interrupting enough, let us know, okay? Now, 2 books, the David Wolpe book, and of course, it's an hour. We'll be using both of them. So we'll begin, if we can. First of all, anybody, any questions or anything that, okay. Well, let's begin with the book. And let's begin with the introduction, page X111. If you didn't go to Central High School, that means 13. And if someone will read the 3rd paragraph starting with the word, the 4th line, so in the pages following. Here we are, X111 in the introduction.
You know, but then.
So in the pages following, I have walked through David's life and written about each of the roles that define him. The young David, David as lover, husband, fugitive, king, sinner, father, caretaker, messianic forebearer, and have included other roles as poet, musician, and warrior.
Thank you, David. If you'll turn 3 pages backward, it's the table of contents. That's exactly what we're going to be doing and how we'll be doing the course. Each week, we'll try to see what David is, who David is, how he acted as a lover, husband, fugitive, king, sinner, father, etc. So we're going to try to cover a chapter a week. Today, we'll try to do chapter 1, young David. But before we do, the question is, why do we study David?
Because the Messiah supposedly comes from the line of David. The Messiah is supposedly will come from the
Very
family of
good.
David.
He's very current. Yeah, and future as far as that.
Because he's the king.
It's a good answer. Let's see an answer that Rabbi Wolpe gives. Go turn to page X14, also known as 14. And if somebody would read paragraph 2. It says, so versatile and enduring is David in our culture. This is why we want to tackle it.
So versatile and enduring is David in our culture. I just like reading about my own name.
And we like to hear.
People have called me versatile and enduring before. So versatile and enduring is David in our culture. That rare is the week that passes without some public allusion to his life. Every sex scandal involving prominent men.
That's not you.
No, no.
Excuse me, where are you reading this from? Which page?
in the introduction, page 14, X1B, and it's paragraph number 2, so versatile and enduring.
It's,
Every
and,
sentence-
okay,
Okay, David.
got it.
every section involving prominent men is sure to evoke comparison with David and Bathsheba. Successions and power allude to David and Saul. Unequal struggles are summarized with the battle of David and Goliath. Few symbols fulfill so many functions. If you reach for an underdog, if you seek a precedent for the abuse of power, if you look for an ancient model of friendship or perhaps same-sex love, if you want a monarch who is also a bard, if you want to suggest the kingship that will never end, and so very much more, David is your man. He is a character whose reputation is as ramified as remarkable and as enduring as historic.
And if you read the last sentence in that last paragraph we use, we need to understand.
We need to understand David better because we use his life to comprehend our own.
What we're gonna try to do is to see, not only who is David, but we've all been fugitives, we've all been warriors, we've all had experiences that we can identify with David as ourselves. So we're gonna try to hold this up as a mirror to our own self. And Russell, then I want to call on you, Harry.
I also have to be impressed by the fact that David is the world's most widely read poet.
Oh, yes, you would, that would.
Russell would be,
Yeah.
is our poet laureate for the state of Tennessee, and he knows. That's right. I mean, think of somebody who's a leader who writes poetry. And Terry had an idea, which I think is a good one.
Well, I was gonna say too, David is, of all the characters that we have in the Tanakh, we know the most about David. He's the most written about is David, and, including not only his lifetime, but then later, looking back. We were gonna hand out pieces of paper, but we decided not to do that. But just think about what you know, right now, before we get into the book, before we start studying the life of David, what is something you know when we say David that comes to mind?
Who is murderer, right? He had murder.
Well, let's go right to it,
He
yes.
was he was an adulteress.
Jerk, okay.
An
At times he lied.
Okay, Ricky says murderer and adulterer, okay, so that's somebody that we want to emulate.
I said jerk.
But it does,
Give to
It- it does cause I can't hear you anymore.
John,
We got you,
we hear
keep
you.
going.
We hear
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. It does cause a confusion though to me, why anyone as flawed as David, that his line would be the line of the Messiah. One would think that we could have found someone less flawed to be the line of the Messiah.
And that's it's a critical, because Judaism doesn't see the Messiah as a God figure. Judaism sees the Messiah. David was a Messiah. He was a human being. And that's the problem that we have with other concepts. A Messiah in Judaism is an anointed one.
That's what the
Person.
word literally means. Yeah, that's the Mashiach literally means anointed one. It doesn't mean
And that's,
God.
and that's so important because none of the heroes in our Bible, none of the persons in our Bible are perfect because they're us. That's exactly, any other,
And David was descended from Ruth. Lumber.
yeah, very good. And
He has a song after the
you think about it, how many of our people in this book have a song with their name in it? Except God, but not people.
Where's Moses?
Moses.
Moses, right?
Yeah, go down Moses.
Yeah, that's.
Just go down.
I always think since, at one point I used to do a lot of the half Torahs when we had,
Yes, you did.
when we had Saturday morning
Your favorite
service.
Nakamura.
And I think about that half Torah, about David's death, when he acts like a mafia leader and tells Solomon to bump off a few people.
It was good to be king.
That's what Rick said.
No,
He didn't do his own, he just said somebody else to do it.
No, yeah, he apparently had agreements with these people not to do,
And aren't we,
not to do that, but he
isn't there
was.
somebody in your life you'd like to do that too? Don't answer that.
We're recording.
That's right. David fits into our history perfectly. Now, he's not in the Torah. Remember, Torah is Genesis, which is family. We got Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah. It's just family. Exodus, we get it being a nation. Moses was 40 years. And then Joshua. Joshua, this is about 12. Abraham was about 1900 before the Common Era, about 4,000 years ago. Joshua was about 1200 before the Common Era. And after Joshua dies, we get judges. Those are Deborah, Gideon, Samson, and others ending with Samuel. So that's where we want to start. You really can't understand David or study David without studying Samuel and Saul. So we're going to start with Samuel. So if you'll turn in this book, it's on page 427. It's 1 Samuel. Samuel is such a big book, they decided to make it. All right, 1 Samuel. On your, it is 661.
Thank you.
That's what I use. It's 1 Samuel, chapter 7, verses 15, 16, and 17. On your book at 427. Okay. Now remember, we don't, this is, all we have now is a group of tribes, and everybody has their own territory, everybody has their own judge. Their own judge. So anybody want to read that, those 3 verses to it, please?
Samuel judged Israel as long as he lived. Each year he made the rounds of Bethel, Gilgal, and Mizpah, and acted as judge over Israel in all those places. Then he would return to Ramah, for his home was there, and there too he would judge Israel. He built an altar there to the Lord.
Good. This is a picture. I couldn't get the Xerox well, but the way this works, here is Bethel.
It's too close.
Here's Gilgal. And there's Mizpah. And there's Ramah. So from Bethel to Gilgal is 14 miles here to downtown. From Gilgal to Mizpah is about 15 miles. And from Mizpah to Bethel is 4 miles. And 2 miles south of Mizpah is Ramah, just above Jerusalem. I know you can't see that, but it's a triangle. And that's what he would do. He would judge Israel. Well, here was Israel. You'll pass that. This is a picture of the tribes and where they were. And you'll see this was the case when Stephen was, he was here with a tribe of Benjamin in relation to everybody else. Can you all see that on that Zoom?
Sure. No,
Too far, okay. That's, well, this one's too far anyway. Okay. But now we have a tribal structure. The idea of a single nation didn't appear to us. We were insulated. Suddenly, things changed. Why? Because of outside influence. Now let's read on your, it's on 428 in your, this is 1 Samuel chapter 8. It's still page 661 for you. 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Why is it called 1 Samuel?
I'm sorry. Oh, it's a very important question, Susan. The book was so big, they made it into 2 volumes. Samuel 1, Samuel 2. It's just because of volume. Too heavy to pick up.
Remember, they were scrolls
Yeah.
before they were
That's,
books.
I'm
and so-
glad you, yeah, that's right.
Is that like 1 Kings, 2 Kings?
Yeah.
same line?
That's
Same thing for
exactly
all
what
the
happened.
First
That's right.
Chronicles.
That's right.
Chapter and verse.
The chapter is chapter 8, verses 4, 5, 6, and 7.
all the elders of Israel assembled and came to Samuel at Ramah, and they said to him, you have grown old, and your sons have not followed your ways.
Uh-oh, the funds were, they were gonna, well, and they did some bad stuff. Go ahead.
Therefore, appoint a king for us to govern us like all other nations.
We want to be like everybody else.
Keep
Well,
on.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Now we got a problem. We were a family, we're a nation, we're tribes. Now we want to be a kingdom. What's the problem?
That's not how God said to set it up.
Right? But we don't have a king.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we do God.
Now, that's very important because, go ahead and read the rest of that. Next two verses.
Okay, Samuel was displeased that they said.
Samuel said he didn't like that. But neither did, go ahead.
Samuel prayed to the Lord, and the Lord replied to Samuel, heed the demand of the people in everything they say to you, for it is not you they have rejected, it is me they have rejected.
God is not happy. But he said, okay, if that's what they want, that's what they're gonna get.
Well, can I read the rest of it?
You can.
Okay. Like everything else they have done ever since I brought them out of Egypt to this day, forsaking me and worshiping other gods, so they are doing to you.
All right.
Yeah,
Now,
if they'll do it to me, they'll do it to you.
Now-
Really?
if you could pick somebody that you know is Jewish to be a king over us, who would you choose?
David.
King David. But the question is, where are they gonna get a
We
king?
have to change the stationery.
Really?
I,
How would you find a king? How are you gonna choose him? Somebody's gotta choose him. I mean, how are you gonna do that?
Well, maybe he could have a ball and whoever lost a golden slipper.
That might work better than what they did. Let's see what they did. This is 1 Samuel chapter 9. Your page 429, 663, okay. Verses 1, 2, and 3. 1 Samuel chapter 9, verses 1, 2, and 3. This is how it was done.
There was a man of Benjamin whose name was Kish, son of Abiel, son of Zaor, son of, a Benjamite, a man of substance,
Right, a tribe from the tribe of Benjamin.
smallest tribe.
Gets to be a king, yeah. Go
And he
ahead.
had a son whose name was Saul, an excellent young man. No one among the Israelites was handsomer than he. He was a head taller than any of the people.
Oh, that was a good
Keep
reason.
going.
No, that's fine. He was tall, he was handsome, he was exceptional, he was valorous. Good shepherd. Now, this is on page 430, verses 17 and 21, just those two verses.
They didn't say he was a mensch yet.
Aha, very
No.
good, Susan.
What'd you say, verse
17,
17?
huh?
Okay, so
It
sorry.
does say he's goodly.
Huh?
It does say he's goodly.
Yeah,
in
he's
this
good.
version.
He was good. The father sent him to get some, they lose the,
As soon as Samuel saw Saul, the Lord declared to him, "This is the man I told you would govern my people."
that's how he was elected.
Ah.
He was selected. God says, that's the guy. Go ahead. 17,
That was 17.
right.
And you want me to
Oh, I'm
continue?
sorry, 21.
21. Saul replied, "But I am only a Benjamite from the smallest of the tribes of Israel, and my clan is the least of all the clans of the tribe of Benjamin. Why do you say such things to me?"
What? Me, I'm the least, what is Saul thinking?
Is he like Moses
I
and
will not run if.
It was a story.
Not accept.
It was a football game and they were, every play they would lose yardage. And the coach sent out a signal, give the ball to Bill. Next play, Bill didn't get the ball, they lost 5 yards, the guy was injured, they carried him off. Next play, he sends the guy on the bench, tell the quarterback, give the ball to Bill. Again, Bill didn't get the ball, the guy was injured, they carried him off. The third thing, same thing happened. And the coach finally went into the field, he said to the quarterback, he said, I sent somebody out, I gave you the signal. I told you, give the ball to Bill. What happened? He says, Bill said, he don't want the ball. Joey, that's all. I'm happy. I got no trouble.
Joe, it's like Moses, remember, God, Moses said, I'm stutterer, I can't,
Yeah.
I don't want the job.
How many times did Moses do that in that one conversation?
Apparently 4.
Many
Four
times.
All the prophets. I don't want this. Jeremiah. I got unclean lips. They don't want this.
Jeremiah said he was too young, if I remember.
Yes, I'm a child.
Isaiah said he wasn't.
Gideon came from the same clan.
Yep.
Gideon says, "I'm the least child of the least tribe of the least clan. Why are you asking me to do that?
Joe ran
Who
away.
wants this job? You want
Well,
this job?
we don't have any record that Noah, who said nothing, didn't say, I'm not going to build this big boat and take in all the animals. He never said that.
Wife did though.
That was before Abraham. Yeah, he wasn't one of us.
He didn't
know
say
what?
anything until the end when he was cursing.
So what happens? Now chapter 10, verse 1. This is on page 430. Yeah. So what happens?
Samuel took a flask of oil and poured some on Saul's head.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Chapter 10, verse 1. Samuel took a flask of oil and poured some on Saul's head and kissed him and said, the Lord herewith anoints you ruler over
There you
his
are.
own people.
Good. Go ahead.
Verse 2. When you leave me today, you will meet two men near the tomb of Rachel in the territory of Benjamin.
Yeah, and that's what Terry was just telling us. He's anointed.
He is a Mashiach,
That's it. You've got anointed.
literally.
I don't care if you want it or don't want it.
Yeah.
You're it. Tag, you're it. And now verses 6 and 7. And here's how God solves the problem.
The Spirit of the Lord will grip you, and you will speak in ecstasy along with them. You will become another man. Once these signs have happened to you, act when the occasion arises, for God is with you.
How about that? I'm sorry, wait, is that?
Yeah, that's it, that's.
Yes, okay. Well, don't worry about it. It's like God says to Moses. Don't worry about it. I'll take care of you. Aaron will be here. This is about 1,000 before the Common Era. It's 1,000 years after Abraham, about 3,000 years ago. We've been oppressed by our neighbors, divided along tribal lines.
What you?
Here comes Saul. What's his problem? He has no experience. There is no royal tradition. He knows nothing. He doesn't know how to be king. Got a problem.
And he knows it.
And he knows it. Lynn is right. That's very important. He knows now, what am I doing here? I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know anything. So now let's see what happens. This is chapter 10, verses 20 through 24, page 432. 20 through 24. Now see what you think of Saul.
Samuel brought forward each of the tribes of Israel, and the lot indicated the tribe of Benjamin. Then Samuel brought forward the tribe of Benjamin by its clans, and the clan of Matrides
Now that tribes, yeah.
was indicated. And then Saul's son of Kish was indicated. But when they looked for him, he was not to be found. They inquired of the Lord, has anyone else come here?
Now this is the inauguration of the king. Everybody's there, the whole,
This is the coronation.
yeah, the coronation. Good, I like that.
Except the king.
David, go ahead with, I'm sorry.
And the Lord replied, yes, he is hiding among the baggage.
What? Can you imagine inaugurating the president of the United States and the stage is there, there's nobody there? And they say, where's the president? Oh, he's hiding among the baggage. Everybody knows this now. Now what?
So they ran over and brought him from there, and when he took his place among the people, he stood a head taller than all the people. And Samuel said to the people, do you see the one whom the Lord has chosen? There is nothing like him among the people. And all the people acclaimed him, shouting, long live the king.
That's now you get where they get that expression. What kind of, from shepherd to king? That's it? Now let's read chapter 15. This is on page 440. Verses 1, 2, and 3, chapter 15. And this is where you get into, where Saul gets into trouble now. And this is really essential to Judaism today.
I'm sorry, what verse did you say?
I'm sorry, this is chapter 15, verses 1, 2, and 3.
Samuel said to Saul, I am the one who the Lord sent to anoint you king over his people, Israel. Therefore, listen to the Lord's command.
Now, this is God talking through Samuel to Saul.
Thus said the Lord of hosts, I am exacting the penalty for what Amalek did to Israel.
You remember Amalek? Well, okay, go ahead.
For the assault he made upon them on the road, on their way to Egypt. Now go attack Amalek and prescribe all that belongs to him. Spare no one, but kill alike men and women, infants and sucklings, oxen and sheep, camels and asses.
That's pretty clear. Okay,
Keep going.
now verses 7 through 11.
Saul destroyed Amalek from Havilah all the way to Shur, which is close to Egypt, and he captured King Agag of Amalek alive. He prescribed all the people, putting them to the sword, but Saul and the troops spared Agag and the best of the sheep, the oxen, and the second-born, the lambs, and all else that was of value. They would not prescribe them. They prescribed only what was cheap and worthless.
And verse 24, 25, and 26.
Hang on.
25 and 26, and 15 still?
That's 24, 25, 26.
This is on page 441 or 442. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Saul said to Samuel, I did wrong to transgress the Lord's command and your instructions, but I was afraid of the troops, and I yielded to them. Oh.
Took a poll, did he?
Please forgive my offense and come back with me, and I will bow low to the Lord. Can we keep going?
That's 32
Okay.
through 35, that's it.
32 through 35. Samuel said, bring forward to me the king Agag of
Now
Amalek.
picture this one.
Agag approached him with faltering steps, and Agag said, oh, bitter death is at hand. Samuel said, as your sword has bereaved women, so shall your mother be bereaved among women. And Samuel cut Agag down before the Lord at Gilgal.
He cut him into pieces.
Oh.
Why is this such a big deal?
I follow through on God's command.
He was told what to do. He decided, well, they don't want me. These are good animals. What am I?
Mhm.
But there's something else that has happened here. What if I told you that Agag had relations with a woman the night before this, and she got pregnant? Let's turn to page 1460 in that book. And it's 1757 in the stone. Esther, chapter 3, verse 1.
Esther?
This is on 1460 page. I think that's right.
Esther, okay, Esther.
Which chapter again?
It's chapter 3,
Okay.
verse 1.
Sometime afterward, King Ahasuerus promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha and Agagite.
Yes, yes.
He advanced him and seated him higher than his fellow officials.
And slaughtered this guy, cut him into pieces, but not before.
He had a kid.
Right.
His life continued.
And he's been with us ever since.
Esther chapter 3, verse 1.
What do you think of that?
Didn't that kill all of Haman's children after, Esther said she was Jewish in that story?
Yeah.
So there's still any Haman
That's
ancestors?
still,
But we
Agag
can assume
family
there
is
were
still
other
around.
people over there. And we can assume there were other people as well in that, because how many generations passed between these two events?
Sure. You're Saul, okay? You want to know why kill these animals? They weren't bothering anybody. They're good animals. They weren't bothering anything. What crimes did they commit? What was Saul's problem? That's what we want to know. Saul, if Lynn said he didn't do what he was told, what was the problem, Russ?
the soldiers wanted the spoils of war.
Okay,
This is what soldiers, traditionally wanted.
yeah,
If they were the victors, they wanted whatever they captured.
yeah. This,
He wanted to put all this to death, neither. God wanted to put all these things to death,
uh-huh,
and they wanted the sheep and the oxen. So he gave in to the soldiers.
ooh,
So they only kill.
rather than, as Lynn said,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
so, if that's the
But there,
case,
there is another piece of it though. If you're the king and you're insecure, as Saul was, he on some level know his incompetence, then you want to put on the biggest show you can possibly put on to try to have other people not realize how unsure you are.
And to please as many people as you can.
Right?
and to please as many people as you can. What was Saul's problem? Weakness. Weakness.
Right.
An excess of mercy. Here's a question. Can misplaced pity be less dangerous than unwarranted cruelty?
Will you repeat that?
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, can misplaced pity be worse than unwarranted? What's worse?
That not to show my own bias in this, but my perception is that Saul was mentally ill, not weak.
Ah, go ahead.
And when we go back to where he first was encountering David, he was in a depressive episode and he was looking for David's soothing voice and whatever to make him come out of his depressive episode. And he clearly somewhere along the way had some manic episodes as well. Well, a little bias here for the mental health.
Excellent. One of our great sages, a man named Reish Lakish, 2,000 years ago, said this. See if you agree with this. He says, whoever chooses to show pity to a cruel person will in the end be cruel to men capable of pity. What do you think?
No.
You
I don't-
agree
I
or
don't
disagree?
think so. No wonder he had an inferior complex.
But let's go with what Don is saying. Let's look at, and this is critical to the story of David, Saul's personality. Think about it. Could Saul, here's the question,
He
could
doesn't
Saul
respect
represent
He does not respect himself.
Okay.
So therefore, nobody will respect him.
Very good. And what about us? Can he represent the internal troubles we all have? So, yeah, he lacks self-assurance. You need that to lead. If you're gonna lead, you've gotta have some assurance. The question is Saul the Hamlet in each one of us?
But he was forced into this position. Yes. There was no choice.
Right. Now God says to you, he said, I don't want it. Doesn't make any difference what you want. It's what I want, said God. You know you're weak. You're indecisive. You're going to be or not to be with God, right?
And doesn't God say the same thing to Saul that says to Moses? Moses says, I don't want it, and God said, I'll be with you.
But Moses
I'm gonna
rose
be-
to the occasion.
Right, and then they said to Saul, I will be with you. I'm gonna instill a spirit in you that will allow you to do this.
But then he didn't.
But we've got two different outcomes here and two different ways of.
But everybody
embracing
gets angry at Abraham, who did what God told him to do. And now everybody's upset with him for trying to kill his son.
What do you think of that?
that. Is it the same? I don't, okay.
Yeah, but then we have another contrast in the same area, because there's nothing that I've ever read that said that God told David to go out and fight Goliath. I don't think he told him that.
What do you think?
You don't think, okay, let's say, you don't think God told David to go fight Goliath? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I don't.
No, see, this is a very
think
important
he
part
did.
of David's psychology. We're gonna get into that.
Yeah.
That question that Don and Terry were hinting at, that's a very important. David's he's a little fisher with the sheep. That's it. He's a nobody. Suddenly he says, I'll get him.
I'm kidding.
What happened? And we're gonna study. That's
I
important.
think David saw a great
What's in
opportunity.
it for me?
The question is, does Saul doubt too much?
Does Saul what?
Doubt.
Doubt.
Do we doubt too much? That's the question. What about us?
I think if God said to me, you have to go do this thing that you have no skills at,
Uh-huh.
I would have many, many self-doubts. Yes. I've been so much.
I made my living for quite a few years making decisions. Because I worked for, those who don't know, I was an unemployment adjudicator for the state of Tennessee. And I had to make legal eligibility decisions on unemployment claims. I learned that there are people that should never make decisions because they just cannot, they cannot, they take forever. You have to realize that once you have gotten to a certain point and you've paid attention and researched the situation and thought about the situation, you have to make that decision. And there's some people that never make the decision
And why is that?
because they are scared they'll make the wrong decision, and that's inevitably going to happen a few times.
There are four
But
things.
you have to make it.
Four things essential for life. Food, water, shelter, and somebody to blame.
Right. That's right.
You don't want to be blamed. Who wants to be blamed? That's when you want to get somebody upset, blame them about something. I mean, we live in a time when we are, in this country, we're for ways to be offended. That's what the country's all about now.
There are so many people with so many different kinds of natures and you look at,
Yes.
you look at an abuser and he hits his wife. Well, you made me do it.
Yeah. The narcissistic person.
How valid is
Saul
that?
would be a great philosopher. I mean, think about it a minute. He would be good at this. But here's the question. If God knows all, he knows everything, why choose Saul?
That's my question.
Yeah,
And
go
it's
ahead.
a-
Yeah.
it's a-
Right.
when you-
That's right.
We're stuck with, we're supposed to have faith in God, and then God continues throughout the Bible, this isn't the only time, to make decisions that make no sense and they really don't work out that well.
On the other hand, if you don't want them to have a king, what kind of king?
And you know,
What does it
Saul
set up?
did
Why
not-
doesn't he just say have no king? If he's God,
It's
why
already
is he
said.
saying?
Because when's the last time we listened to him? You read it. Here we don't listen. God tells us what to do, we don't do it. So what is he?
Saul did not talk to God and Moses did. I was thinking that Saul did not really have a relationship with God.
He didn't want the job.
He spoke to God through his prophet, through
Samuel.
Samuel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the guy doesn't want the job,
and then later on.
you know? Bill don't want the ball.
What I still find strange is
Good.
that, what I still find
Yes,
strange
what you find strange?
is that, so they describe him as someone who is so good. So in
Yeah.
other words, he's trying to, know the meaning of Rachamim and all that. But when he shows it, it's like,
He does the best he can, he can't make, like Russell said, he can't make the decision for fear of being blamed. It's human, he's a
Yeah.
human being.
But he isn't a great decision maker either, because if he was, he wouldn't have gone out himself to fight the Philistines that got him killed. That wasn't a very great decision.
Yeah, got him out of the job though.
He retired. That's what a wonderful setup. What we've now been introduced to David's situation. Now, how David is chosen king. Okay, now this is 1 Samuel chapter 16, verses 1 through 13. This is on page 442.
and for me,
Book, and I don't have that. It's chapter 16.
Samuel.
Verse one.
let me see, where is Samuel?
1 through 13.
That's all.
And I think we should point out
Wait a minute.
this situation with God and Samuel having to kill a god is what broke the relationship between Saul and Samuel.
If that-
That's what broke the relationship.
Yes, finally Samuel.
This is critical to the understanding. This is very important. Did y'all hear what Terry said?
Samuel finally saw that Saul was not going to do what God had asked him to do.
Where were
And that
we,
broke the
where were we when we
That's right.
started?
That's exactly right.
It's First Samuel. 16, chapter 16.
Yes.
But I can't find Samuel in here.
Samuel will be right after, well, let's see, the Joshua, let's see, what book are you in now?
I'm in
No, I
the,
mean, what are you looking at? It's open to,
Balak Numbers.
okay, we'll go about this far down. See Kings?
Isaiah,
Okay, go backwards, go back where you were, go back toward where you were.
Isaiah,
No, I mean, way back.
way back.
Go
Oh,
halfway.
Samuel, Samuel, 16?
Second or First Samuel?
Oh, this is second Samuel.
Okay, go back further. It's quite a bit. These are two big books.
Can I go on?
First says.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna go on and read while you're looking, okay?
Okay, this is important. Go ahead.
And the Lord said to Samuel, how long will you grieve over Saul, since I have rejected him as king over Israel?
Sam is not happy with this. He doesn't like this business. You tell me to do this, now it's not working. Samuel is grieving over Saul. Go ahead.
Fill your horn with, I better not read. Fill your horn with oil and set out. I am sending you to Jesse the Bethlehemite.
Right, now he's going to Bethlehem, where this Jesse lives.
For I have decided on one of his sons to be king.
Aha, God says, I changed my mind.
I tell you, talk about making decisions. I'm not sure God was that good of a decision maker.
As a comedian, Joey Brown used to say, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Samuel replied, how can I go? If Saul hears of it, he will kill me.
Now think about this a minute. He says, you're Samuel.
Give me
He says, go fire Saul. You go to the Bethlehem. He said, oh, Samuel, what are you here for? I'm here to fire your king. This is not
Right.
gonna work.
Saul didn't want to be king, so why does he care?
No, but he is the king. Saul is the king.
At first Saul didn't want to be king, but then
Now,
Saul
yeah.
decided it was good to be
He
king.
gave Saul,
And grew on him, yeah.
yeah, he gave Saul a new spirit. Now you got a king.
16.
Samuel comes there, says, what are you doing here? I'm gonna fire your king. Maybe somebody likes him, maybe, what happens? Go ahead.
Okay, the Lord answered, take a heifer with you and say, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Invite Jesse to the sacrificial feast, and then I will make known to you what you shall do.
Now, wait a minute. I just told you, God, I don't want to do it. I can't do this. If I do this, they'll kill me.
Right.
God said, you're right. I didn't think of that, maybe. Tell you what you do. Get a calf and tell them you lie to them. Tell them you're there to sacrifice the calf. They won't mind that. That's supposed to, that's good. He's telling the lie.
Yeah.
Subterfuge. Why? How can you, here is God ordering Samuel to lie. How do you justify that?
Well, they wanted to say Samuel's lied.
Aha, Ricky.
He
You
wanted-
can lie to life. We talked about that
You
in
can
Torah.
lie to save life.
You can lie if you're saving somebody's life. What happened in Nazi Germany? There were Germans who saved Jews' lives by hiding them. Germans would knock on the door. You have any Jews in here? Oh, no. Are you familiar with Corrie ten Boom? Are you familiar with it? This was Corrie ten Boom was a non-Jew who saved Jewish children. She had a wall built into her house. It was a door, but it looked like a wall. And she had a crazy sister. What was her sister's name?
Can't remember.
Okay.
Younger sister.
And the Nazis, and the sister answered the door. Everybody in the town knew she was a complete mess.
Well, and
No,
she was they were Dutch Christians.
That's right.
And she's
that's
a very
right.
devout Christian, and she wouldn't lie because of her faith.
Well-
They said, you got, oh, tell you the truth,
Wait.
behind that wall. And they said,
Yeah.
oh, it's Corey's sister. She's nuts. Let's get out of here. And the Jews were saved.
That's right.
Wow.
You can lie to save a life. You can't lie because you want to lie. But remember, God says, choose life, Russell.
I want to say something about this business of Saul and his not wanting to be king.
Yeah,
Once he was king, however, he would not want to stop being
Right.
king. Because in those days, there was no such thing as king emeritus. Once you were no longer king, you were going to be.
all right. Let's look at page 3 in our book.
There's no stepping down.
No retiring,
No retirement.
I'll have it by then.
okay? This is on your book. On page 3, second paragraph, somebody will read that. From the word, while we do not yet know that David.
While we do not have time for page. Oh, there.
Well, we do not yet know that David will be a man of his greatness. There is a hint in God's initial instruction to Samuel. When Samuel quite reasonably protests that King Saul will seek to kill him if he finds out he is on his way to anoint his new king, God instructs Samuel to lie. Take a heifer with you and say, I have come to sacrifice. A white lie, to be sure, a lie to preserve a life. Still, it is worth noting that David is anointed in a cloud of mild deception. Does he at this moment learn to adopt the self-protective shading of the truth from the prophet who gives him his start?
Again, Allison, if you'll finish that, where you left off, we're gonna go through 13. This is what happens.
Okay, let me point again. Okay, I will make known to you what you shall do. You shall anoint for me the one I point out to you.
So David's gonna be anointed, but Samuel has no idea. God said, I'll tell you, just do what I say, go ahead.
Samuel did what the Lord commanded. When he came to Bethlehem, the elders of the city went out in alarm to meet him and said, do you come on a peaceful errand? Yes, he replied, I have come to sacrifice to the Lord. Purify yourselves and join me in the sacrificial feast. He also instructed Jesse and his sons to purify themselves and invited them to the sacrificial feast. Continue. When they arrived,
Through 13.
okay, when they arrived and he saw Eliab, he thought, surely the Lord's anointed stands before him. But the Lord said to Samuel, pay no attention to his appearance or his stature.
Yeah, this guy, he's tall, he's dark, he's handsome. It's him. We
He's the
want
oldest.
to,
But for I have rejected, well, he tried tall, dark, and handsome before, it didn't work.
that's a very important observation. That's where we're going. Go
We
ahead.
must all learn from this.
That's exactly where we're going. That's exactly it. Go ahead.
For not as a man sees, does the Lord see. Man sees only what is visible, but the Lord sees into the heart. Then Jesse called Abinadab
Uh-huh,
and had him pass before Samuel.
uh-huh.
But he said, the Lord has not chosen this one either. Next, Jesse presented
Next.
Shammah, the Lord. And again, he said, the Lord has not chosen this one either.
Wrong choice. Next.
Thus Jesse presented 7 of his sons before Samuel, and Samuel said to Jesse, the Lord has not chosen any of them.
Wait a minute. You sent me this guy, now what?
So Samuel asked Jesse, are these all the boys you have? He replied, they were still the youngest, he is tending the flock.
Wait a minute.
And Samuel said to Jesse, find someone to bring him, for we will not sit down to eat until he gets here. So they sent and brought him. He was ruddy-cheeked, bright-eyed, and handsome. And the Lord said, rise and anoint him, for this is the one.
What?
Samuel took oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers, and the Spirit of the Lord gripped David from that day on.
How do you think the brothers feel? No, you're not, no. Get that schlemiel out in the field with the sheep.
I don't know, maybe they were glad that they got to be related to the king.
But what about Joseph and his brothers? When Joseph was,
Oh, that's true.
what do you think the brothers are feeling here? This is a good one. David is the chosen. What's the lesson for us?
Don't judge a book
Leadership.
by its color. By its
Yeah.
cover.
The youngest one
Leadership.
always wins.
I'm sorry.
The youngest one always wins.
What Lynn's saying is very important. This has to do with the law of primogeniture. In pagan culture, the oldest gets everything. Who was older, Cain or Abel?
Abel,
Abel. Mhm. Who was older, Ishmael or Isaac? Who was older, Jacob or Esau? Who was older, Joseph or? It's destroying the fact that you're born first don't mean a thing.
as put out as I've always been about this fact that the youngest one always gets everything since I'm the oldest in my family. I do have to be pleased with the other fact. In our culture,
Uh-huh.
and I'm sure that one always, it was a great advantage to be a very large person. Apparently David is a small person.
Sure, yeah.
But he was handsome.
Right.
Yeah, so was the other one you said.
Well, yes, but apparently he's got this
I know.
big older brother that's
Now
very impressive. Apparently,
and look,
he's
Joe.
little David.
Little
Can
David.
we
Right.
learn from this that a man's greatness is not in his height or size?
I didn't hear you, I'm sorry.
Can we learn from this that a man's greatness is not in his height or size? I mean, whether he's this or that.
Yeah. Very good.
I would say in
How
today's
does
day,
God judge? Now, in our society, the presidents are usually tall people. I think this president, what is it, 6 something? You're not gonna, who was the short president? John Adams.
Yes, it was like 5.
well, Harry Truman was very short.
Truman. But if you're gonna vote for somebody, and you have 2 people, one is 6 foot tall, the other is 3 foot tall,
Jefferson was 6 foot something.
yeah, they were all
Washington
6.
was very.
Was 6'4", which was gigantic. and
Who was that?
Yeah.
George Washington was 6'4", which was
Was that right? I
gigantic.
didn't know that.
When it says Washington slept here, it means you could stretch out.
Well, I think Abraham Lincoln didn't even fit the bed. He was too big for the bed. They put him in.
Yeah,
it with
6.
Years ago, I went into a bank downtown.
Mhm.
And as I was in the bank, a door opened.
Mhm.
And about 20 very tall men came out. All of them white, all of them men. And I said to the teller that was waiting on me, "Who are those men?" And she said, "Those are the vice presidents of the bank." And I said, I can understand how this bank maybe wouldn't have anyone that's not white. And I can understand maybe how you wouldn't have a woman as your president. I'd be facetious, of course, I didn't understand. A woman on your board. But it really puzzles me that you think in order to handle money in this bank, that you have to be over 6 foot tall.
There was a president, I forgot which one it was, that would only have people around him, I mean, they were shorter than he was. I forgot who that was.
Yeah.
It's modern. Let's read verse 13 again, or do we read 13? There's a little phrase here that really, that has to do with what Ricky was telling us. Go ahead. 13, that would be page, where were we?
It says Samuel took the horn of the oil. That one.
If somebody else can find it, because
It's on page 442.
Samuel
Okay.
took the horn of oil and anointed him in the presence of his brothers, and the spirit of the Lord gripped David from that day on. Samuel then
Now,
set out for Ramah.
from that day on, what does that tell us? He's gonna be king from that day forever.
He is
He's
now
heir.
an anointed, he is now a Mashiach.
he is heir apparent, but Saul doesn't know anything
But
about
what
this.
about the future? If this is from this day on,
Mhm.
that's forever. So how can we say, why do we say the Messiah is a descendant of David? That's the phrase.
Oh.
Okay.
Say that again.
That's the phrase. I mean, David as king is beloved. I mean, he's beleaguered, he's desperate, he's astonishingly lucky. Think about it a minute. He sins, he betrays, he stumbles, he can't fail. Pretend you're David. You don't have to pretend. You're David. It's Bethlehem. You were born there 3,000 years ago. You're the youngest of 8 brothers. You're described as very handsome, beautiful eyes. Your father gives you the lowest, dirtiest. How would you describe it?
Just a lowly, dirty job.
I mean, tending the sheep is the lowest job you can have. You don't send somebody out. I mean, think about it. You're sitting there with the sheep one day. Someone comes up to you and says, "Your daddy wants to see you."
Uh-oh.
Okay, all right. You watch this, I'll leave the sheep alone. He takes you to a big feast in Jerusalem. Standing there, there's the elders of the town, the mayor, the city council, your father, your brothers, and the most famous man in the kingdom, the man, the prophet Samuel. You've never seen a prophet, you don't know anybody. You're the schlemiel that tends the sheep. That's it.
You don't smell very good at this point.
No, that's right. And suddenly, without warning, with everybody watching, here comes this great prophet, walks up to you, in his hands a flask of oil, takes the oil, anoints you, you're the king of Israel now, and he leaves. Samuel just goes, and that's it. He's standing there, let it head with.
Oh,
Can I disagree
He's
with
been
something?
anointed. I mean, let's talk about the issue of parents and children. What do you think? Here's Jesse.
Can I disagree with something?
Sure.
God is the shepherd of people.
Uh-huh.
Is responsible,
Uh-huh.
is tending, etc. A shepherd herding and keeping sheep is actually someone with a lot of responsibility for many living creatures
but in this
and
culture,
learns how to protect them, how to tend them, how to make decisions and everything. So it is, to me, it is not a lowly job.
But in
And
this
you're
culture,
right,
it's-
and
In
here's
this
why you're right.
culture, but
Here's why you're right. What was Abraham's occupation? He was a,
shepherd.
what was Isaac's occupation? He was a shepherd.
Shepherd.
What was Jacob's occupation? He was a shepherd.
Wait,
What was
wait.
Joseph? What was Moses' occupation? God chooses shepherds.
So
Why?
he chooses people who
Why?
tend after
You
him.
choose a shepherd, God, all your life you just, all you hear all day is, that's it. Russ?
That's one thing about being a shepherd, it builds courage. Think about this young boy out by himself with a bunch of sheep. Out there are wild animals, which apparently in those days there were more of than there are even now in Israel.
All right.
Out there were robbers, and out there were all sorts of things.
What is it,
And here
23rd?
you have this young boy
Mhm.
out by himself with these sheep. So this builds courage.
It does.
And what does his 23rd Psalm say?
The Lord is
Rod and your staff.
They
What
comfort.
you gonna ride for?
Rod is for protection. Yeah. The staff is, there's two separate instruments. The rod is for protection. The staff is to lead the sheep.
All right, in the book, page 2,
Sorry,
third paragraph, the identification of David as a shepherd. Page 2.
What's the first sentence?
Mhm.
What is the first sentence?
The first sentence is the identification of David as a shepherd.
The identification of David as the shepherd in this first scene follows a biblical pattern. Jacob was a shepherd, as was Moses. The rabbis seizing on this say explicitly, when God wishes to choose a leader, God looks to see how he tends sheep. In other words, will this person be good to the powerless and the lost? Can he be a caretaker? In identifying David as a shepherd, Enoch is telling us, here is someone with a steady hand and compassionate heart. The subsequent tale complicates that image, but never quite erases it.
Now think about it a minute. Here's a guy who was ignored by his father. Just ignored. Totally ignored. Think of the sentence. Think of a boy who is ignored by his father. Think of Winston Churchill. His father not only ignored him, he called him a wastrel. You'll never be anything. Winston Churchill. So think of the relationship between a boy and his father. He was ignored by his father. What the kind of, you get the lowest job there is. Boys need their father's approval. He didn't get it.
But he must have had a good relationship with his brothers, because they didn't object.
Yep.
They,
But we also see in the story of Goliath, we also see how the brothers view David, because when David shows up, they mock him. And they say,
Okay.
what are you doing here? Did you leave those few sheep that our father has you tend to come here and watch this battle? So they didn't think very highly of him,
Yeah, we want.
but they didn't object. You're right.
Yeah, but what were they gonna do? Smack Samuel?
It's a very important concept. Now, David was born in 1040 before the common era. He died at age 70 in 970.
In bed.
And he was king for 40 years. His family. Let's see if we pass this out. Okay, let's see. Good. Now, wait a minute, let's see, I need, what am I doing here? No, I'm fine. Who was his family? Look at the bottom right, it says David, okay? I'll show this everybody.
He does it.
Okay, here's David. His father was Jesse, his grandfather was, and his great-grandfather was Boaz. And you trace Boaz all the way to the top and you get Judah. That's pretty Jewish. But here you have Ruth. We said she was a convert. Well, let's trace her back. All the way here, all the way up here, all the way here, up to who was Lot's grandson? Moab. She was a Moabitess. She is one of us. She's not a stranger. There are people who, and we have a good friend who's all of this person's life felt, I think I belong as a Jew. I don't know where I get this from, but I'm there. It happens to very many people. It's not uncommon. But look at this. She's the Balak. Remember the Balaam story? One of the Moabites. So 8 generations back, it's us. Here's Abraham, here's Haran, here's Terah. So this is not a stranger. Lot is the father of Moab, Reuel is the Moabite. David has 8 wives, 19 children. And that's how it starts. So I think we're out of time.
Yes.
We'll meet in. Just remember, David's loved by everybody. Nobody doesn't like David.
Obviously, I wasn't born then, but Harry Truman has been told either the day before or the day of decisions made, from the atomic bomb on Hiroshima.
Yeah.
And Mr. President, were you up all night? He goes, no, the decision was made. I went to bed, normal time.
Yeah.
We investigated it. That's it.
That's what-
So he wasn't afraid to make the decision.
No, and that's what I think was Russell Lynn was talking about. When, on the election night, they asked him, were you worried? You know, I had a glass of milk and a ham sandwich and went to bed. Decision making. That's what we're talking about.
I have one housekeeping question. Which
Okay.
translation of the Torah are you doing? My stone one doesn't line up with your pages.
Right.
It's not.
It's the
We're
JPS.
using this, but I use.
JPS is the Tanakh.
Okay, thank you.
JPS.
But I'll try to get both. I use the stone also.
But you don't have to, because we
Well,
can hand them out to you.
You'd
Yeah,
probably
we
be
have a
better
bunch of
doing by
choice for this.
But I
chapter
do
numbers,
like
but
Yeah.
verse and chapter.
Oh,
The
you
last
just
thing I
like it
want to do is
better
if you
than
read
what
page
you-
4, the first
That's a
paragraph.
reason.
I'm sorry, the first paragraph.
What do you want?
And this is very important.
Point out. Okay.
The first encounter.
Can you go on?
The first encounter between Saul and David is poignant or chilling. Saul's attendants, noting his dark mood, suggest finding a lad who is skilled in the lyre, an ancient musical instrument, to play and coax the melancholy king back to fitness.
Get into this next week. This is what Don was getting at.
The initial recommendation is a powerful foreshadowing. Saul's attendant says he knows of a young man, quote, skilled in playing, a valiant fellow, a warrior, prudent in speech, a good-looking man, and the Lord is with him. With that formidable list of virtues, Saul is convinced. He seems to know it, David, for he sends messengers to Jesse asking him to send his son who is with the flock. It reinforces our understanding of David as a shepherd, but also establishes a peculiar intimacy that will grow between the fading king and the rising one.
And the first paragraph of this on page 5, our first introduction to David.
Right here,
Yeah.
the battle with Goliath,
No,
no,
page 5,
that's where I am.
our first introduction.
Our first introduction to David is as the shepherd, musician, and attendant, an artist and an aide. There is a softness in the portrait of the early David, often allied by the man he will become.
Oh, boy, we're gonna see there'll be some changes made. Thank you all, you're all wonderful. Any questions, suggestions, comments?
Let's study more about his sins, adultery, that'd be more exciting.
We'll get to that.
Actually,
It's in here.
that's chapter 2. That's exactly, that's
Okay.
really right. Lover and husband, is a difference?
Yeah.
And do we have?
There was to
homework?
David.
Do we have homework?
Yeah, I would read chapter 2 if you can.
Okay.
You can certainly go back to chapter 1 again, but next time, 2 weeks from now, we'll do lover and husband. See if we can identify with David at that point, either one or the other.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, David, and thank you all. for wanting to together for so long.
Yeah.
Thank
I mean, I didn't.
Hey,
Yeah.
very good.
Oh, yeah, we thank you all for being here.
Find it.
Best time.
Hi, Dad.
Yeah. Where's John, is Benjamin there or Jonathan there?
They're upstairs.
Oh, they're watching it or not?
I don't know.
Okay.
Hopefully.
That's okay. I don't know how to turn this thing off.
Okay, we'll have somebody do it.
I'll do it.
Oh,
I don't know about that part of it. I can turn the computer off.
Let's see.
And I have been very fortunate that no one has ever asked me to sing their melancholy away. And they were very fortunate that it hasn't happened too.
week, we're gonna have you sing Melancholy Baby.
There you go.
You gotta do it.
I think this,
I'm happy with that.
any suggestion for how we do